Hello and welcome back to the NHL Best Bets. Last night there were many good games, especially we weighted Colorado against Vegas, Lake Tahoe. The game was reasonably good except the small delay after first period, so maybe it was some kind of surprise for NHL that the sun will melt the ice. But now they know that that could happen, and I think they changed the schedule for today, that today's outdoor match between Philadelphia and Boston will take place a bit later, and the probability that ice is not as liquid as Lake Tahoe is a bit higher today. But let's go to the picks we had yesterday. Here we go. First one, Toronto against Montreal. Toronto was a much better team in this matchup, like predicted. They won at the end 5-3, and we got pick correct. Then another game, Minnesota at Anaheim. We predicted under 5.5. Naturally, they made 6 goals in this game, so it was half a goal over and miss from our side. Minnesota was playing now this level that they should play, and Anaheim was as bad as predicted, but when they were behind they needed to open up their game that is not very good in end result, and that was the reason that there were a few goals in third period that Minnesota secured their victory. Tommy, how you saw these games?
Good games, both of them, and Toronto. When you play against Toronto, you can't take penalties, and now Montreal did do that, and of course Toronto then scored a couple of power play goals, and Auston Matthews was on fire. So basically, he did sink the whole Canadiens, and they couldn't get back to the game after succumbing to 2-goal deficit in the second period. So Montreal did fight in the beginning, but then it turned to the better team that Toronto definitely is, and I'm happy to see that Montreal is now getting to the level that the simulations have indicated them to be. So they are still fighting for the playoffs, but definitely not as good a team as they looked in the early in the season. So very good win for us in this game. And like you said, Anaheim, Minnesota, half a goal over, quite useless goals in the end from Minnesota, especially from our point of view. They did dominate the game and had no issues in outplaying Anaheim Ducks. Ducks maybe a little bit struggling defensively at the time, couple of guys injured. And they are not a team that can win the games if there is a lot of goals scored. So they should have been able to keep Minnesota at 2 goals or so in order to even have a chance to win, and now they didn't. So 1-5 final result. Wrong pick, but I would still go with the under again, because it's not every day that John Gibson will allow 5 goals. So it would have been 1-3, the more likely result in this case. So a good pick, but quite bad game from Anaheim Ducks, and there might be some changes there. They are struggling a lot all over the ice, and Minnesota, happy for them that they're now getting back to the level that we have expected them to be, and probably everyone else, especially in Minnesota, are thinking that they can challenge these better teams in the Western Division. So let's see how that goes.
And from those better teams in Western Division, we discussed yesterday that in outdoor game there's value in Colorado. Colorado was a clearly better team in this matchup, and they took a 3-2 victory. And how about other games? We had some picks that we discussed yesterday. I remember Rangers was one that went to the road against Washington and took nice victory over there. Any others that you want to highlight here?
Yeah, well, we were discussing about Edmonton, at least Edmonton against Calgary. Now in Edmonton, there was a Connor McDavid show. He scored a hat trick and assisted on 2 goals, so 5.9 for the next thing. So it was a really good game from Edmonton on offense, and again, the way that Calgary is now playing, they can't beat these better teams. So Calgary also in some kind of troubles at this moment. Jakob Markström really left alone in the goal, so the defense is not doing what they're supposed to, and that was a good value pick from us. We had Edmonton winning for about 60% of the simulations, while the odds were pretty much 50-50. So a good selection there as well. Like you said, Colorado, better team, outdoor game, of course, delayed for a couple of hours, so really long night for us, but 3-2, a deserved victory for Colorado. And yeah, then have to say, even if we had this one incorrect, Pittsburgh Penguins against New York Islanders at home, Sidney Crosby's 1,000th game in NHL. And they won 3-2. Crosby assisted on 2 goals. We did have it very 50-50 and exactly at the point where the odds were. So no value there. We had Islanders winning 47% of the simulations, while the odds were 46.1. So we had a 0.9% failure there in this game. But happy for the Penguins and happy for Crosby to get the victory in this very important milestone game for him.
Yeah, and yesterday we also discussed a little bit about this another top game in Eastern Conference. Tampa went to Carolina, and Carolina took care of the business, even though we had some value on Tampa, but we were thinking as well that Carolina may be the team with the mission here, and definitely they had. So what do you think? Will Tampa Bay be now ousted from the top position in the league, or maybe even the East, and now upcoming teams like Carolina, maybe even Florida can challenge them?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's definitely some sort of wake-up call for Tampa Bay that have been pretty dominant, especially in their division and also in the Eastern Conference. So now there is Carolina and Florida as well, even though they did lose to lousy Detroit team last night. But for Tampa Bay, definitely a wake-up call. They have to start performing better in order to compete if they want to win their division, and they are pretty sure to make the playoffs. So maybe again, like I've said before, Tampa Bay not putting all their effort in the regular season, but then come playoff time, they should be firing with all the cylinders. But a really good game from Carolina. Like I've said, they have now found a good balance in 4 lines, which they didn't have before. So they have also the sort of middle 6 players performing well. Their defense is really good, and they apparently found a goaltender, Nedeljkovic, who is able to play in the NHL level. A little bit of a surprise to me, but a shutout is always a shutout, especially against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So hats off to this guy as well.
Yeah, and in the West, top of the Colorado-Vegas game, Los Angeles went to Arizona, took 4-2 victory there, and San Jose went to St. Louis, took a surprising 5-4 victory as well. So in the West, out of 4 games, and this 4th one is this outdoor game, all the other 3 games were won by visitor, and that was same thing in many other games. Nashville won Colorado, Toronto, like we said, won against Montreal, and Nashville won Columbus. And do you think home teams were too comfy in Saturday evening and didn't put the best effort for their fans?
Yeah, that could be the case. Many of these games were back-to-back, all sort of these sort of revenge matches, like for example the Nashville Columbus game. Nashville was horrible in the previous one, so they were bouncing back, and the way that Columbus played this time around, they are not able to win games, so allowing a way too many chances for the opponent. So a deserved victory for Nashville, who have been struggling a lot lately. So very good thing that they are back in business and trying to at least compete. On another note, in the West, the games, Anaheim, Minnesota, Los Angeles Kings, Arizona, these teams are proving that there is no easy games in this league. So you can't just go and think that okay, this team is the last in the division, it's gonna be an easy picking, but that's not the case. And also, as we've seen this season, all of these divisions are still wide open for the playoff competition. Minnesota now doing pretty well, but there is still San Jose can be climbing up. They have a good team. Last season a catastrophe, but previously almost a similar players. They managed to go pretty far in the playoffs. So can't say that anything is written off yet. So especially in the Western Division, even if there is the top 3 teams, after that it's wide open. So very interesting to see what's happening there.
Yeah, I think it would be good to see that if some of these card holders will be happy as well, because Kings have been maybe playing a bit better than we predicted. Naturally, they have more games now under the belt than Minnesota, but LA is the 4th in standing if the playoffs would start today.
Yeah, it's everyone for the taking this division, and it's especially these defensively sound teams like Kings, Arizona. Both of them playing really tight defense. So when the season gets older and the games are actually starting to, the players and the coaches, everyone sees that, okay, you have to actually win these games now in order to make the playoffs. We're going to see a lot of really tight and close matchup between these teams.
And those matchups continue today. There is only 4 games, but should be good entertaining hockey. We have picked 2 games. Winnipeg continues their trip in Vancouver. We had this same game picked 2 nights ago. Winnipeg won 2-0. Now most probably there will be Connor Hellebuck at goal. So even though their, let's say, second goalie, Laurent Brossoit, had a shootout, Hellebuck is surely top 3, at least top 5 goal in the league. So he should be able to solidify the defense to the same level like it was in previous games. So when you are not allowing a single goal, your probabilities to win the game is a bit high. And then another game, Montreal goes to Ottawa. They lost last night, like we know, to Toronto, so it's back-to-back for them from home to the road. And Ottawa has been bit up and down, more mainly struggling team, and both teams have reasonably good goalies. If Carey Price continues in Montreal, he would be of course also ready to bounce back, and then Matt Murray in Ottawa. So we expect that there is no more than 5 goals in this matchup. How do you see, Tommy, these games, and anything else that you would think would make sense to bet tonight?
Yeah, I think these bets are good. Like we saw last time with Vancouver and Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a better team. They didn't play Connor Hellebuck at that time, but still managed to shut out Vancouver. And Vancouver, like we've said before, is pretty much hanging on one line at the moment, and that's not enough to counter Winnipeg, who have a lot more balanced system. Of course, their defense is still not as good as their offense. Pierre-Luc Dubois probably still out, but it hasn't slowed them down lately at all. So I think with again +100 odds for the Jets, this is a really good bet, and probably going to be quite a similar sort of matchup as it was last time. Likely that Connor Hellebuck will start for Winnipeg, and probably Braden Holtby for Vancouver, but Holtby and Thatcher Demko have pretty similar sort of stats, and neither of them have been that good that it would help the Vancouver team that's struggling a little bit. And if you score 0 goals, the goaltenders won't help you at all. So it's a good pick for me. And the under then in Ottawa is because Ottawa, first of all, they have struggled a lot like we've expected, but they've shown that they are a gritty team. They can fight off the Montreal offense here, and both goaltenders, Carey Price or Jake Allen for Montreal and Matt Murray for Ottawa, top-notch goalkeepers, can keep their net empty, and also the defense of both teams, probably after the couple of games that they haven't played so well, they're going to go through the defense. It's going to be a low-scoring, really tight matchup.
Let's hope so. We have had a few unfortunates in total bets, but I also think that under here is more probable than over if there are these two goalies, and naturally if teams are playing at the level that they have been recently. So naturally there was a game like Ottawa-Toronto 5-6 and Canadiens last night 3-5 against Toronto. So most probably the coaches will say that, hey, we need to play a bit defense as well.
Yeah, when you keep losing while you're scoring goals, you have to start over. You have to play from the defense, and these head coaches definitely know that. And especially in Montreal, that they saw early in the season that they can be contenders. They can beat anyone in this division. They have to go back to that sort of playing, that they are able to score the goals if they play solid enough defense and allow their goaltender to take the saves that are needed. So I think especially for Montreal, this is a sort of bounce back game, that they go back into the defensive mode, but then manage to score the needed goals to win this game. I'd say 1-3, 1-4 maximum.
Then there are two other games. First one, New Jersey plays against Washington. New Jersey played last night at home. Now they go to the road. Washington played last night home and lost to Rangers. What do you think? Is Washington ready to bounce back and play much better than they did yesterday, or will New Jersey continue their reasonably good stride after their break?
Yeah, probably Washington is going to play better than they did last night, because they can't do much worse. But Washington has been through the season, maybe through 2 seasons already, this really up and down roller coaster team that they are capable of beating any team, but they're also capable of losing to any team. So it's a really difficult team to predict. And now facing New Jersey Devils, who had a really tough time yesterday against Buffalo in a game that they lost 3-2. But they did improve come the third period, but they were already too much down to get any points. But New Jersey Devils has been playing pretty well compared to the expectations, so it will be a tough matchup. We do have small value for the underdogs, New Jersey Devils here, but not enough trust to put them against the Capitals to win. But will be a really close matchup, and I don't think it will be any sort of a shooting gallery. It's going to be a very tight game.
And then the outdoor game between Philadelphia and Boston. Hopefully, first of all, the ice will stay in ice format and won't change to the water. But there we have some value for Philadelphia. But there is quite a bit changes in roster due to COVID protocols. So do you think Philadelphia can give any kind of challenge to better Boston team?
Yeah, I think it will be a close one again, because it's the circumstances are very different from everything, of course, at Lake Tahoe, and also due to all these COVID things, to travel and whatever. So I think it's going to be, again, very much of a coin flip of a game, no matter if Philadelphia has a couple of guys out due to the COVID protocol. But it's such a different situation. So I think it's going to be quite a low scoring, kind of like an exhibition game type affair, a little bit like we saw the first period in the last night's game, Colorado-Vegas, was that it wasn't that good quality ice hockey. It was entertaining, but I think we're going to see a little bit of similar thing, and that means that it can turn to either of the teams, really. And there is not that big a difference between the rosters. Boston may be a little bit better team, but like we've predicted Philadelphia to do well this season, I think they have the chance to surprise as well.
Let's see how that goes. At least the setup and sceneries for the hockey fans are pretty nice there in Lake Tahoe. It'd be good to see this match again. And we'll see also how the Winnipeg performs and how the goalies in Montreal, Ottawa perform. So those are the points to look after tonight.
Yeah, have a good night of hockey.